Now at 5, Joplin police say a second officer who was shot on Tuesday will not recover from his injuries. We'll have details of this afternoon's news conference and the outpouring of community support.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The tragedy deepens from Tuesday's shooting of 3 Joplin police officers. This is KOAM News at 5. In a news conference this afternoon, police and city leaders said a second officer will not recover from the shooting. He is Patrol Officer Jake Reed. Police Chief Sloan Rowland made the announcement after consulting with Reed's family. Officer Reed was 5 years into his career. This news comes as the 4 states grieves for the loss of Corporal Benjamin Cooper, who died from injuries suffered in the same shootout near 4th and Range Line in Joplin Tuesday. Police this afternoon also released the name of an officer who was shot but survived. Officer Ricky Hershey was shot in a second encounter with the suspect near 9th and Connecticut. Hershey is in serious but stable condition.
Jake is an organ donor, and plans are underway for Jake's heroic actions to bring life to people needing organ transplants. We ask that you lift up his wife and family in prayer as they grieve. We're so proud, so thankful, and forever in debt for his service to this community.
City of Joplin, please continue to lean into these families as they are hurting and need that comfort. Not only the families that are affected that have been mentioned, but also our entire JPD family.
City has not yet announced plans for funeral services. City leaders thanked the citizens and the community for their outpouring of support. You can see this afternoon's entire news conference on KOAMnewsnow.com. Flowers from the public to honor the 3 officers who were shot remain on display, although they are no longer outside. The flowers and other mementos had accumulated on a patrol car parked outside the police department. Police this afternoon moved them indoors so they'll be protected from the wintry weather. Another local business is showing support by selling coffee and milkshakes. Joplin Greenhouse is hosting Back the Blue fundraisers in support of the Joplin PD families. Starting today, all proceeds from these menu items will be donated directly to the families of the fallen and injured officer. Joplin Greenhouse will also be accepting cards or written notes to the families that will be hand-delivered at the beginning of next week.
I think that we've always had a really big sense of community at the Joplin Greenhouse, and being able to be a small business in the community and I guess set the tone for how to support and be Joplin strong is something that the community is really talking about right now. That was our goal, and I hope that we succeed.
This fundraiser goes through March 14th, and they tell us 100% of the proceeds go to the 3 Joplin PD families. Wintry weather is moving in. Let's check in with Doug Heddy.
Yeah, we got a winter weather advisory in effect for the entire area as we go through the overnight hours tonight and then again into the daytime hours on Friday as our next bout of snow is going to work in. This is not a big system, but it will cause us some issues across the region. Nick, will you put that in play mode for me? I think it's not. But you can see everybody's under a winter weather advisory as we go through the overnight hours. We have had some light snow showers, northern counties. Not a huge deal, but this band will continue to expand out across southeastern Kansas, northeastern parts of Oklahoma as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. Look at the temperature contrast. We're mid-50s, Benton County, to mid-20s in our northern counties. Of course, we're going to break this all down for you all coming up here in just a little bit.
See you then. Former Parsons High School students allege that a recently resigned teacher sent them inappropriate messages. The teacher's resignation was accepted by the school board on Tuesday evening. Lori Ray, the superintendent of the Parsons School District, says going forward, this teacher will not be participating in any school activities. One former student says the teacher would send her Snapchats saying he was under the influence or make other inappropriate comments. The students have asked not to be identified.
At one point, and I didn't notice, or I forgot, and I put a picture of me laying on my back saying something about having no boobs, and he replied to it saying that it was just because I was laying down. And I was like, weird that he would reply.
We're going to hear more from other former students as well as information from the school district and police tonight at 6. Joplin Public Works Director David Hertzberg is retiring after serving the city for more than 40 years. Hertzberg began his career with the city as a part-time employee, working in the city's sign shop, and held several positions before serving as director for the department for nearly 15 years. He's retiring on April 4th. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has entered its third week, with Russian forces continuing to bombard major cities and desperate civilians hoping to escape through agreed-upon safe corridors. Thousands of people have been killed and more than 2.3 million people have fled the country since Russian troops crossed into Ukraine on February 24th. Encircled cities have been suffering from shortages of food, medicine, heat, and electricity, and thousands of trapped civilians were hoping to leave today during temporary ceasefires. The two sides agreed to those, though most past attempts failed because of continued Russian shelling. The country's top diplomats met in Turkey for the highest level talks since the invasion began, but they could not find common ground. Actor Jussie Smollett will be sentenced in Chicago for staging a hate crime against himself in what prosecutors say was a bid to gain sympathy and boost his career. Smollett faces a maximum sentence of 3 years in prison for each count, although he could be given probation. Prosecutors in the trial of 4 men charged with plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer today played covertly recorded audio for jurors. In the summer of 2020, recording Barry Croft Jr. describes the possibility of using explosives to, quote, rain down fire on law enforcement with a team standing by to grab Whitmer. He says, quote, I'm going to terrorize people. In a separate message, he says Whitmer needs to be hung. Defense attorneys argue the FBI tricked the defendants into agreeing to kidnap the governor. Still ahead, inflation still on the rise.
Consumer prices hit another record. I'm Michael George, and I'll tell you what's fueling the increase.
And next in Health Watch, how a simple solution could help chemotherapy patients dealing with memory issues. Topping today's Health Watch, a new study shows that a third dose of the coronavirus vaccine is needed to fully protect against the Omicron variant. The study, published in the British Medical Journal, found 3 vaccine doses boosts effectiveness against the Omicron variant more than 85%. The study of nearly 12,000 adults evaluated only people admitted to the hospital and did not include data on mild COVID-19 cases or those that did not require hospitalization. New research from a British university shows everyday houseplants can greatly decrease indoor air pollution. Scientists tested 3 types of houseplants: peace lily, fern, arum, and corn plant, leaving them in a test chamber. They say over an hour period, the plants were able to eliminate 20% of nitrogen dioxide, which is a common pollutant. A new look at hospitalized Medicare patients finds that 30-day risk of death among those without COVID-19 jumped 20% during the pandemic. Researchers in Texas also found the increases in mortality were greater in lower quality hospitals and hospitals with high caseloads of COVID-19. Almost 40% of us will be told we have the C word at some point in our lives. The fact is that more and more people are surviving cancer. In fact, there are almost 17 million cancer survivors currently in the U.S. But the side effects of treating cancer, especially the side effects of chemotherapy, can be long-lasting. Nearly every chemo patient experiences some short-term problems with their memory, and some of those people will feel the impact for the rest of their lives. But there may be a simple solution to ease the impact of chemo brain. Tessa Ghazi was young, vibrant, healthy.
And one day, just after a run, I was like, my breast hurts. And it hadn't done that before, and I was like, okay. So when I was taking my shower after, I felt the lump.
Tessa was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma. Tessa underwent a double mastectomy and chemotherapy, and although both have their side effects, it was the chemo that threw her for a loop.
Most patients diagnosed with cancer will experience some degree of cognitive decline throughout their cancer experience.
Chemo brain usually improves within 9 to 12 months, but up to 20% may have long-term effects, including problems with memory, word retrieval, concentration following instructions, multitasking, and setting priorities. A study from Washington University in St. Louis found that once diagnosed, rest may not be the best medicine.
Patients may benefit more from moving their bodies and being physically active in the days and weeks leading up to treatment, rather than just sitting and resting.
Another study out of Dana-Farber suggests aerobic exercises like walking, running, dancing, or cycling have the most impact. Tessa found her focus by spinning.
It's kind of been a lifesaver.
And hopes to pedal her way through cancer. Although doctors don't know what causes chemo brain, theories include the anxiety and stress related to the cancer diagnosis. Also, cancer medications like tamoxifen may contribute to prolonged cognitive symptoms than those who receive only chemotherapy. A new study finds e-cigarette use among young people does not appear to be a substantial gateway to regular smoking. Researchers in England looked at people ages 16 through 24 and saw no significant uptake in smoking among the population when the prevalence of vaping changed. The discovery of how specific immune cells help cause inflammation could lead to new ways to manage obesity. Scientists in Ireland and Germany identified how certain proteins in immune cells alter inflammatory cells within the fat tissue of mice. They also discovered that modifications in the proteins were linked to dramatic reductions in the development of obesity and diabetes. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, a look at what's behind the most recent rise in consumer prices.
Plus, we have another wintry event rolling in for us tonight and tomorrow. Those details coming up. Well, a lot of clouds for us today. Some of us have had some snow showers, especially during the morning hours, but most of us have been dry. But that will be changing as we go through the evening hours. Winter weather advisory in effect for the entire area as we are going to get some light snow in here. This is not a big storm system by any means. This is a weak system, but it's still going to cause some minor issues with some minor accumulations of snow as they work through over about the next 24 hours or so. But everybody, winter weather advisory. Let's go back to this morning. You can see some light snow showers. These were our northern counties, and some areas picked up a dusting upwards to a ½ inch. Most of it's already melted by now, but we did get some light accumulations across our northern counties earlier today. As of right now, most of us are dry, but you can see a band of snow. This is north of Nevada, so Rich Hill, Butler, stretching back toward Pleasanton, and probably at least some flurries near Yates Center at this time. But this is where it's going to get going and develop as we go through the rest of the evening hours. We'll see that band kind of increasing north of I-44 and then slowly advancing off toward the south and to the east. Cloudy skies, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside of Seneca, Missouri. Looks okay right now. If you have not been outside in the past couple hours, it's significantly colder. That cold front has blasted through, so we're down to 34 in Joplin, 29 in Pitt, 24 in Yates Center. So any snow that we do get, it will stick. Now look at our southern counties. Look at Bella Vista, 55. Anderson's at 50. We're at 52 in Cassville, but everybody will drop as we go through the overnight hours. A little breezy. We have these northeasterly winds at about 10 to 15, making it feel a little bit colder than what it actually is. Roads are dry right now. Of course, that will change as we go through the evening hours. Temperatures drop back through the 20s, and then we'll start to get some light snow developing through the overnight hours tonight. Let's go through time. Here's 9 p.m. Here are the bands of light snow. So most of Kansas, southwestern Missouri, north of I-44 is going to start to pick up light snow. I do not expect any snow. It could start as a little sleet into Pittsburgh or Joplin until after about 9 p.m. As we go through the overnight hours, you can see this band slowly sinks south. So by midnight, should be through the metro. And then as we go after midnight, we just have bands of light snow. It starts to taper in our northwestern counties by early morning. So if you live in Yates Center or Iola, your snow is pretty much done by 7 or 8 in the morning. Light snow continues through the morning hours. So here's 9:30. Let's go to about the noon hour. Could even mix with a few raindrops at the end. And then all this is gone by the time we head into late afternoon. 28 by noon. I do think after the snow will warm up a little bit and we should make it up to about 35 tomorrow afternoon. Snowfall amounts widespread, 1 to 3 inches. I'm kind of thinking in my head 1 to 2, but there are going to be some areas, Nevada, Lamar, Stockton Lake, that could get 3, maybe isolated 4-inch amounts. But so not a huge snow, but we are going to have some issues on the roads tomorrow morning. I think the roads will quickly improve. This will be a real slushy snow by tomorrow afternoon. 35 for a high 37 on Saturday. We do start at 11 Saturday morning. And then look at this, Sunday, we spring forward and nearly 60 degrees.
So the snow will disappear quickly,
Yeah.
but at least for a time tomorrow morning, it
We're gonna have
could
some
be
issues.
treacherous. Thanks, Doug. Coming up, what's behind the record-breaking inflation rate? First, though, we honor a local veteran. Keith Keltner served in the U.S. Army in 1953 and 54. The liberal Missouri native was stationed in Korea, and we salute Sergeant Keith Keltner, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, a new report shows consumer prices rose more than 7% for the year ending in February. It's the biggest annual increase in more than 40 years. Reporter Michael George tells us why.
Record high gas prices are fueling cost increases across the economy. Mike Porter owns an executive car service and is now forced to charge his customers more.
We had to institute a fuel surcharge on our bill.
That's the wing combo.
Mary Scow is spending more to fuel her food truck, including propane for the grill.
We raised prices on the food so it balances it out a little bit.
That includes a $2 increase on her cheeseburger. And consumers aren't just paying more to eat out. A new report shows food at the grocery store costs more. Milk increased 11% in a year. Oranges jumped 14%, and bacon went up almost 19%. 71-year-old Carmen Crespo says it's tough to shop on her current budget. Have you ever seen the prices like this before?
No, never.
Prices for food and just about everything we buy are only expected to go higher.
I think that we are looking at a period now where we can pretty clearly see that 8 and maybe even 9% inflation is on the horizon.
That's because the cost of gas is making products more expensive to ship. And stores, including this food co-op, have to charge more.
Because we buy it for a higher price, the reality is that the customer just has to pay that much more for the product.
Next week, the Federal Reserve is expected to raise interest rates in an attempt to ease soaring prices. But experts say inflation likely won't return to more normal levels until the end of the year. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Analysts say fuel prices will continue to fluctuate depending on what happens with the war in Ukraine and restrictions on Russian oil. More Americans signed up for unemployment benefits last week. The Labor Department says first-time filings for weekly jobless claims rose by 11,000 to 227,000. The 4-week moving average also ticked slightly higher. Lyft is the latest company to shift to a fully flexible workforce. The company says the move will allow employees to choose where they want to live and work. That means workers won't need permission to relocate within the U.S. Lyft joins companies like Twitter and Amazon, which are giving employees the option to choose whether they want to be in person or remote. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, the latest on the conflict in Ukraine, then on KOAM News at 6. We're going to have more from today's Joplin Police News Conference on the shootings of the 3 police officers, the tragic developments, plus more on how the community is supporting the families of the officers involved. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. We have some wintry weather moving in.
We do. We have some light snow, which is developing in our northern counties right now, and this will be the trend through the evening hours. Most of the light snow will be north of Interstate 44 for about the next, 7 or 8 hours, and then it will start to shift off toward the south. But bands of light snow through the morning hours, tapers off in the afternoon. I do think the roads will be a little tricky in the morning, through the morning hours, and then they should improve by the afternoon as we get up to about 35 degrees. Cold night tomorrow night, down to 11.
Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we're going to be right back here at 6. We'll see you then. Let's support each other and make it a great evening.